Alright, so we're going to take a look at function notation. Alright, so function notation is about renaming our equations instead of being y equals. Alright, so where do we normally maybe use this, or where it's maybe probably used, is when we have two equations in the one question and we want to have a distinction between the two, or differentiate between the two. So how do we name these? So we can write it as f of x. So as I've written there, f bracket x close bracket, that's going to be telling us what value x could take, so that's our input value there, and then to the right there we've got our rule, which is 2x plus 1. So how do we differentiate it? Well, instead of f of x, let's use g of x. Now, it doesn't have to be g, it doesn't have to be f. Let's not get confused here and think that the f actually stands for function. Alright, so the f there is just telling us what rule it is associated with, and the g tells us what rule it's associated with. We do say f of x and g of x. So remember, the bracket there will tell us what value x could take. Alright, let's look at some of the typical questions that we'd get. Alright, so find f of 4. Alright, now that f tells us what function we're going to use. So it's a good example here of why we use function notation. We know we're going to use 2x plus 1. So there's our f, there's our function. So we're going to use that rule there, 2x plus 1. And what we're doing there is that input value of 4, that's telling us what the x value could take. So x is going to be equal to 4. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So we can therefore write f of 4 is equal to 9. Alright, it's probably important to take a look at another example. So we're asked to find g of negative 1. So again, the g allows us to tell us what function we're going to use. So we're using the x squared plus 2x plus 1. We then know that our x value is equal to negative 1, so we substitute our x value into both positions there. So we're going to get negative 1 squared, which is going to give us positive 1. 2 times negative 1, which is going to give us negative 2. So positive 1, take 2, plus 1. Together that's going to give us 0. And therefore, we can state that g of negative 1 is equal to 0. Again, our coordinates there would be negative 1 and 0. Okay, let's look at where this may get harder. We're given a question here where it says find f of a. So we're not actually finding a value here, we're finding an expression because we're going to substitute a letter in for the x value. So we substitute and replace the x for a, and we get 2a plus 1. Alright, let's look at this in the g of x function. So let's say we want to put g of b in there. So again, we replace the x to get b squared plus 2 times b, or 2b, plus 1. So g of b would simply equal b squared plus 2b plus 1. So that's an expression, not a value. Alright, let's have a look at when we have f of x plus 1. Again, we're replacing the x with x plus 1. So the whole thing there with x plus 1, and then we got the plus 1 on there. We can expand that bracket out to get 2x plus 2. We add 1 on the end, which gives us 2x plus 3, and that's in simplified form. So that's what we call finding our answer in simplified form, or our expression in simplified form. Alright, let's look at some harder aspects of function notation. So let's take the function f of x is equal to x squared. So our rule there is x squared. And let's see what happens when we have f of x plus 1. So what we're going to get there is x plus 1 in brackets squared. And again, we can simplify that if we want to, but we'll leave it for the time being. X take 2, well that's simply going to be x take 2 in brackets squared. So replace the x there with x take 2. What about f of x plus 1? Well, f of x is simply just x squared, and then we have plus 1 on the end. Alright, let's look at having 2 multiplied by f of x. So remember, f of x is simply x squared, and then we're just multiplying that by 2, so we're going to get 2x squared. Alright, we've got negative 3 multiplied by f of x, and we subtract away 4. So again, we have the f of x, which remember up the top there, it's equal to x squared, so we put x squared down. We times it by negative 3. We then subtract away 4. And let's look at our final example. So we got minus f of x, or that's negative 1 times f of x plus 3, and then we subtract 2 away. So remember, we've got x plus 3 in the brackets, so that's going to be x plus 3, squaring that, We multiply it by a negative or -1, and then we subtract away the 2 on the end. And there we go. Function notation.